You don't belong at this table. With just one sentence, Claire Whitmore judged Marcus Reed before she knew his name, his abilities, or who truly belonged in that chair. But she had no idea that the black man she had just looked down on would soon become the only person capable of preventing a mistake that could cost the entire company dearly. What happens when prejudice blinds someone to the truth? And when all the evidence finally comes to light, what will Claire lose because of her own judgment? Follow the story She Paid the Price to witness the moment power falls silent before dignity and discover why kindness is not weakness, but the greatest strength a person can possess. She paid the price. You don't belong at this table. The words cut through the executive conference room before the morning presentation had even begun. Marcus Reed stood beside the 20-foot glass wall overlooking downtown Chicago, one hand resting on a leather portfolio. At 41, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who had spent years entering rooms where people questioned his presence before they questioned his ability. His charcoal three-piece suit was perfectly tailored. A pale blue shirt softened its sharp lines, while a deep burgundy tie rested neatly against his chest. Across the table, Claire Whitmore closed the financial report in front of her. 37, blonde, polished, and newly appointed regional manager, Claire wore a navy business suit and a white blouse without a single wrinkle. She had been at Hamilton Ridge Industries for 6 months, long enough to know every executive by name. Apparently, not long enough to recognize one. "I'm sorry," Marcus asked. Claire pointed toward the hallway. "The facility's briefing is downstairs. This meeting is restricted to senior leadership." No one spoke. Several executives lowered their eyes. One adjusted his cufflinks. Another pretended to read an email. Marcus looked at the engraved nameplate in front of the empty chair. Marcus Reed, Chief Operating Officer. Then he looked back at Claire. "I believe that seat is mine." A nervous silence spread across the room. Claire's face tightened. For one brief second, embarrassment appeared in her eyes. Then pride covered it. "Well," she said, forcing a thin smile, "perhaps introductions should have been handled more clearly." Marcus pulled out the chair and sat down. "They usually are." The meeting began. But something had already changed. Not in the room. In Claire. She had made an assumption, and instead of questioning it, she began searching for reasons to prove it had been right. Over the following weeks, Marcus noticed the pattern. When he proposed expanding employee training, Claire called it unnecessary spending. When another executive repeated the same idea 3 days later, she called it innovative. She interrupted Marcus during presentations, but allowed others to finish. She requested additional evidence for his projections, even when identical reports from other departments passed without review. Nothing she did was loud enough to become an accusation. That was what made it difficult. Prejudice rarely entered wearing a name tag. Sometimes it arrived as doubt, sometimes as an extra question, sometimes as a smile that disappeared when a certain person entered the room. Marcus had learned that years ago. His father had worked maintenance at a steel plant on the south side. Every evening, he came home smelling of machine oil and cold metal. He used to place both hands on Marcus's shoulders and say, "Never become smaller just because someone else refuses to see your size." Marcus carried those words into every boardroom. He never raised his voice. He never answered disrespect with cruelty. But he remembered everything. 3 months later, Hamilton Ridge prepared to acquire Northstar Logistics in a deal valued at $800 million. Claire was placed in charge of the final integration plan. Success would likely earn her a promotion to executive vice president. Failure could end her career. For 2 weeks, the top floor remained illuminated long after midnight. Financial reports covered conference tables. Coffee cooled beside laptops. Attorneys moved through the halls carrying thick binders. Then Marcus found the problem. Hidden inside Northstar's operating reports was a chain of deferred maintenance costs. Aging distribution centers required major structural upgrades, but the expenses had been moved into future projections. If Hamilton Ridge completed the acquisition under Claire's plan, the company could inherit nearly $90 million in unexpected costs. Marcus reviewed the numbers twice, then a third time. At 9:14 that evening, he sent Claire a detailed warning. She responded 11 minutes later. "Your concerns have been noted. The current plan will proceed." Marcus walked to her office. Rain pressed against the windows behind her desk. "Claire, this isn't a minor accounting difference. I read your email. Then you understand the risk. I understand that you have questioned every major decision I've made. Marcus remained silent. Claire stood. You think I'm not ready for this position? No. I think the numbers are warning us. The numbers passed an independent review. The review used projections supplied by North Star. Her expression hardened. This acquisition is under my authority, and protecting this company is under mine. For several seconds, only the rain spoke. Then Claire folded her arms. Maybe you're uncomfortable taking direction from me. Marcus stared at her. The accusation was so far from the truth that it almost sounded rehearsed. This has nothing to do with you being a woman. Of course you would say that. And everything to do with a $90 million liability. Claire walked to the door and opened it. The discussion is over. Marcus picked up his report. Before leaving, he stopped beside her. Facts do not become disrespectful because they come from someone you've already decided not to trust. Then he walked away. The acquisition moved forward. At the final board review, Claire presented the deal beneath bright white lights. Charts appeared across 3 large screens. Revenue projections climbed in clean blue lines. Board members nodded. Marcus sat near the end of the table. His warning report remained unopened beside Claire's laptop. When the chairman asked whether all operational risks had been reviewed, Claire answered without hesitation. Yes. Marcus looked at her. She did not look back. Then an analyst entered the room. Her face was pale. She handed a document to the chief financial officer. The room slowly became quiet. North Star's primary insurance provider had withdrawn coverage from 6 distribution centers after discovering structural inspection failures. The hidden costs were real, and they were larger than Marcus had predicted. $112 million. Claire stopped speaking. The blue projections remained frozen behind her. The chairman removed his glasses. Were we warned about this? No one answered. Marcus could hear the ventilation system humming above them. Claire looked toward him. For the first time since they had met, there was no superiority in her eyes, only fear. The chairman repeated the question. Did anyone identify this risk? Marcus opened his portfolio. Inside was the report he had written. Every figure, every inspection reference, every warning. He placed it on the table. I did. Claire lowered her eyes. When, 2 weeks ago, the chairman turned toward her. Ms. Whitmore. Her lips parted. No words came. Then the company attorney opened the email archive on the main screen. Marcus's warning appeared. Below it was Claire's response. Your concerns have been noted. The current plan will proceed. The room became completely still. Claire stared at her own words. For months, she had treated Marcus's judgment as something that required additional proof. Now the proof surrounded her. And it had a price. The acquisition was suspended. Hamilton Ridge lost $12 million in legal and consulting expenses. The board opened an internal review. Claire was removed from all acquisition responsibilities. But the professional consequences were not what broke her. 3 days later, investigators interviewed members of her team. One employee described how Claire dismissed Marcus before hearing his ideas. Another remembered the morning she assumed he belonged to the facility's staff. Then came the sentence Claire could not forget. She never treated other executives that way. That evening, Claire sat alone in the conference room. Chicago glowed beyond the windows. The table was empty. Marcus's original report rested in front of her. She read every page. There was no anger in it. No attempt to embarrass her. Only careful analysis. He had not been trying to defeat her. He had been trying to protect the company. And, without realizing it, protect her. Rain moved slowly down the glass. Claire remembered the first words she had spoken to him. You don't belong at this table. Now she was the one sitting alone. A week later, the board gathered to determine her future. Marcus was asked to attend. The chairman reviewed the findings. Mr. Reed, your analysis prevented this company from accepting a much larger liability. Your actions demonstrated exceptional leadership. Marcus nodded. Then the chairman looked toward Claire. Termination is under consideration. Claire sat quietly. Her navy suit looked the same. Her confidence did not. The chairman turned back to Marcus. Do you have anything to add? Everyone waited. Marcus had every reason to remain silent. Claire had questioned his authority, dismissed his expertise, reduced years of achievement to assumptions she never admitted having. One sentence from him could end her career. Marcus looked across the table. What she did was wrong, he said. Claire closed her eyes. And consequences are necessary. The chairman nodded. But removing someone is easier than changing them. Claire looked up. Marcus continued. If accountability only teaches people to hide their prejudice, then we haven't solved anything. We've only made it quieter. No one moved. I recommend removing her management authority during a formal review period. Require leadership training. Require measurable changes. And let the employees she dismissed evaluate whether those changes are real. The chairman studied him. You believe she deserves another opportunity? Marcus looked at Claire. I believe accountability should create something better whenever it can. The board accepted his recommendation. Claire kept her job, but she lost her title. For 6 months, she returned to a senior analyst position. She attended leadership reviews. She listened to employees describe moments she had dismissed as misunderstandings. Some stories made her uncomfortable. That discomfort became part of the price. Marcus never rescued her from it. He remained professional, fair, distant. Then one winter morning, Claire found him standing near the windows outside the executive conference room. Snow covered the streets below. She approached slowly. I owe you an apology. Marcus turned. I judged you before I knew you, she said. Then I spent months defending that judgment because admitting I was wrong felt harder than continuing to be unfair. He said nothing. You warned me. I ignored you because I had already decided what kind of man you were. Her voice trembled. You could have ended my career. Yes. But you didn't. Marcus looked through the glass at the falling snow. My father taught me never to confuse power with strength. Claire lowered her eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. Good. She looked surprised. Forgiveness isn't something you request to make yourself feel better, Marcus said. You earn trust by changing what you do when no one is watching. Claire nodded. Then she extended her hand. Marcus looked at it. After a moment, he shook it. Not as friends. Not yet. But as two people standing on opposite sides of a truth neither could ignore. Months passed. Claire regained a small management team after receiving strong evaluations from the employees who worked beneath her. She listened more, interrupted less. When a young black analyst was mistaken for support staff during a client meeting, Claire corrected the mistake immediately. Not loudly, not to draw attention to herself. She simply pulled out the chair beside hers and said, This is Jordan Ellis, the analyst who built the model you came here to discuss. From across the room, Marcus noticed. He said nothing. Late that afternoon, sunlight poured through the windows of Hamilton Ridge. The conference room was empty again. On the long table sat two nameplates. Claire Whitmore, Regional Operations Manager. Marcus Reed, President and Chief Operating Officer. Marcus walked past the glass wall as employees gathered for the next meeting. Claire held the door open. He paused, then entered. No applause. No speeches. Only the quiet sound of chairs moving as everyone took their rightful place at the table. Outside, winter sunlight reflected across the city. And inside, the silence no longer carried judgment. It carried recognition. In the end, Claire learned that prejudice always carries a price. Marcus chose accountability over revenge, proving that true strength is not about hurting those who wronged us. It is about choosing what is right. Never judge someone by the color of their skin. Kindness is not weakness, it is strength.